Good morning. Welcome to the trailer park. It's Thursday morning, as Pelosi would say. Let me do a few sound checks here and make sure that I'm live in a couple of places. Oz, if you're out there in the ether, will you give the Rokfin a kick for me? If not, that's okay. We're live. He's out there. He's out there lurking somewhere. Welcome, YouTube fams. Wow, Yona, I see you. Occultist. Oh, Occultist Printus. I love that. Great name. Great name. I'm so blind I can't see crap. So if I get your stuff wrong, it's because I can't see it, or I'm just a dumb, uneducated, But anyways, welcome this morning's show. Today's show, we're changing up Thursdays. Today, from here on out, is going to be To Hell and Back Thursdays. If any of you have ever watched our flagship show for Roar Media, it was To Hell and Back was one of our very beginning shows, and it was hosted by myself and Craig Pasta Jardula. We had got together in DC a couple of years ago, and of course, my stump speech, or kind of my reason for being out here in the movement, was to talk about addiction and just what opiates had done to me in my life and my family and every aspect. And it's such a great show. We did some really great deep dives into, I mean, we did one show on benzoids. We did one show on, of course, medical marijuana. We've done opiates. We've done fentanyl. We've done antidepressants. What else? Oh, we've gone through the history of the opium wars all the way back, 3 or 4 centuries when, Britain unleashed an opiate war on China, and how that parallels what Big Pharma has done to us in the US. It was a great show. I went back and looked yesterday because I grabbed a couple of clips. Some of the more controversial shows I noticed are down on YouTube. And so you can catch all of those over on Roar Media's Rokfin. And I think that the Convo Couch might have a playlist of them too. If you want to go back and watch the old ones, we've had some great guests, Jason Burmis, Amber King, Steve Boykaden. Basically, I wanted to hear your To Hell and Back story. And that's what it is. When you come out of addiction at the other side and you look back, you realize that you have gone to hell and back. And so I got a great show lined up for you, but I want to shout out the chats real fast. Hey, dude, where's my car? Long time no see. Glad you're here. Anthony, you were up early. I saw you hanging out over at the AM Wake Ups. Hey, Kit, great show yesterday, Kit. Love me some Harlan's Media. If you're not checking them out in the afternoon, they do some great work over there. Good morning, Kim. Becca C. Hi, Becca. Jill, welcome. Hey, Warren. I see you, Uncle Warren. Boy, you guys are just hanging out. So I got a great show lined up for you. And I'm just going to get into it because this is going to be a long-winded show of me just blah, blahing. And I've got some great clips. I'm going to go after TYT. I'm going to go after Anna for being the stupidest beaver on the planet. So wait for that one. I can't even believe I found that clip. I don't watch TYT, but oh my God. Like, seriously? So let me see if I can get my deck up here. Here we go. Let me go through all of the mundane fair use. All the video clips that I'm watching, I am not trying to steal. I'm commentating on them. So fair use. And welcome to the trailer park. I'd say use my PayPal, but if you're paying attention to what PayPal's been up to the last few days, fuck PayPal. So I have other ways for you to donate in the description below. You can hit our link tree, or the GoFundMe's in there. But yeah, PayPal basically is supporting groomers, if you know what I mean. The whole P word that you're not allowed to say here, So it's just freaking terrible. Besides that, we know PayPal just decides if they want to shut you down and take your money, they freaking will. We learned that the hard way as Assange activists trying to fundraise to get into DC a couple of years ago. So if you're still inclined to use PayPal, there it is. But some of these entities have got to die, right? And they only die if we stop using them. We know that. Good morning, Kate. I hope you had a great trip to Bellingham this week. Bellingham's such a beautiful, beautiful place. I kind of live in the sister city to Bellingham. Squim and Bellingham are very connected for some reason. I think it has to do with the Sandwich Islands, but Love both places. Yeah, Craig Pasajardula is normally hosting this with me. Of course, if you follow the Convo Couch, they are on their way to cover the election in Brazil. It will be great to see Fia and Pasta back together again, and it feels so right, right? So I look forward to that. So safe travels to both of them. I know it's going to be quite the ordeal for Fee. And so hopefully Pasta, I don't know if he'll be back next week. I kind of think he won't. So hopefully Pasta will be jumping in the week after. And, Pasta has done some great investigating when it comes to some of the topics here. Interviews. Oh my gosh, the interviews he's done with some of his friends and people that he knows about addiction and what they've been through. We did a show on the prison pipeline, right? And drug court. And that show was very insightful. A lot of people don't understand how when you're poor, we have a saying, and that's don't let the system catch you. Because if you get caught up in their system, I mean, even for something as simple as a charge of a joint, especially in some states, they own your ass and they can own your ass for freaking years. And when, I say own your ass and not just going to jail or prison, but having to pay thousands of dollars out for, outpatient treatment or counseling or whatever they tell you, you got to pay for it. You got to pay for it. And literally once that system has a hold of you, it doesn't spit you out for 2 or 3 years till you jump through all their hoops. So yeah, the prison pipeline will get you. We know that. Let's see what else. Oh, I wanted to bring you guys the opener to Hell and Back. Oz made this opener and he did such an amazing job on it. I just wanted to give you guys a sample. Of course, we're going to have to revamp it because it's so old now, but this is our normal opening to Hell and Back. And look at how young Pasta was in some of them and myself. And I just love this intro. So let's check it out. Okay, what's going on?
The year 2000, that one that's right above your head in the white shirt, Skinny Pasta, that was my first headshot.
So that was the intro to Hell and Back. I love those young pictures of Pasta, and you can see how much better we've gotten over the years with our tech just by looking at some of the older shows. I did bring a few clips, and we're going to do some show and tell. I brought a lot of pictures for you guys to see, and I just want to kind of get all of those who are new to some of our shows, and especially the Trailer Park Pundit, caught up on what who I am, what I've been through, and why I'm here. And I've been doing a lot of political shows. Of course I do political shows, but my passion is always these addiction shows and talking to people about it, because it's just something. There's certain aspects of addiction that we don't talk about or that most people don't know about, as far as even down to how they've become a currency for the working poor. I lived in a very, very poor part of town when I was at the height of my addiction, and pretty much we didn't trade dollars, we traded drugs. And and that's something that we don't talk about, how they go hand in hand with your ability to live and survive. So let me see what's going on here. Dude, where's my car? Drug addiction freaking sucks. Yeah, right. And that's why I want to talk about this, because so many of us go through it when we're younger, and no matter how we come out on the other side, be it treatment or be it like I did, which was plants over poison. I think it's important for other people to hear it because so many people are struggling right now. I mean, the leading cause of deaths in our country right now for people 18 to 45 is fentanyl overdoses. And then I think suicide backs it up right after. Oh, I'm not allowed to say that word on YouTube. Fucking YouTube. Anyway, so yeah, and I want to make sure that we're covering all of that. Well, there we go. Let's get to the next slide. How is everybody this morning? So this is my alter ego. If you can't tell, can you tell? Yeah, I can tell. So this was me at the height of my addiction. I was actually an alcoholic probably through most of my 20s, and then opiates came along. I was prescribed opiates by my doctor. I was a cheerleader in high school, and you could kind of see that in the opening where my pose picture is. And I tore out my meniscus, and so I had to do quite a few surgeries. And of course, they just start handing you opiates. And at first, I remember asking my doctor, like, aren't these addictive? My mother was a nurse. I grew up, my mother went to school for nursing as I was, young, fifth, sixth grade. And so I kind of grew up with this mentality as there's a pill that fixes everything, right? And so all through the 90s, oh, pop a pill for this, pop a pill for that. But I was more into probably alcohol. I dabbled around with meth a little, when I was really super young. But I had kids. I had my first kid at 18, and I had 3 kids by the time I was 23. So that really wasn't a factor for me. I had to stay home and be, a good mom. And I did, but that's where alcohol came in. And, I was young. I don't want to be sober at 23 or 24. So I would party and drink. And then I moved to the South. I moved to just outside of New Orleans. And if you've ever lived down there, I mean, that's what you do. You drink. That's what everybody does. You hit bourbon, you drink. Mardi Gras, you drink. I mean, that's just, you go to the sheriff's re-election party and there's 2 kegers there. I mean, that's just the way it is down there. So I came back to Washington State at about 25 or 26 years old, and I was a raging alcoholic, and I had dabbled with natural herbs. I don't know if you guys remember the drug Mahung. It was, remember that Metabolife pyramid multi-marketing scheme that everybody was doing in the 90s, right? Well, that shit worked, let me tell you. I dropped like 60 pounds, and I would go. And then of course I was mixing it with alcohol. So when I got home, my family like did kind of an intervention on me and was like, oh, okay, you got to stop this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but I can buy it at Safeway because you could back then. And it's like, so it's not illegal. It's not bad. I'm not addicted. I now look back at it and I realize how much damage I did to my body with that Chinese herb. If you remember, they outlawed it. I'm still a cheerleader, Warren. And so they outlawed Mahung and had to come up with a new additive for Metabolife and there was a Metabolife. There was a whole different gamut of them. But there was baseball players and athletes that were just dropping dead from basically you overheat your body, much like MDMA. And so I did manage to stop taking those type of pills. And of course I was still drinking. And then early 2000s come along, and I have a foreign body that grew in my knee from all of the surgeries that I had. So I go to the doctor and they're like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is the biggest foreign body we've ever seen in a knee. We know you're in a lot of pain, blah, blah, blah. So they start giving me prescriptions. And then they're like, well, we need to go and do surgery to do this, to do that. And then so they do the surgery. So now I'm on opiates for a couple of months, right? And I would come off for a month or two. Addiction's a crazy thing. And I'm going to next time we do a show with Pasta, I'm going to break it down because there's a point where you have homeostasis and you feel normal, right? When you wake up and feel normal, you're not sick, you just feel normal. Well, you go from feeling normal to just trying to get back to normal when you become opiate dependent. And so for those few years, I was managing to juggle it and kind of come back from it. But then I had what they call a tib-fib reduction on my knee, which was a major surgery. They literally shorten your tendons in your leg to hold on to your knee muscles better. and you can't run or barely walk for a long time. It took me probably 2 years before I could run again after that surgery, and at least 6 months before I could walk. And then a month later, I broke my ankle on the other side, drunk, fell off some steps. And so now I have both legs messed up. And back, this was like 2002. The doctors just had a we don't want you to be in pain type of mentality, right? So they're just loading me down with prescriptions. And at the same time, I'm having a lot of back problems because, I'm a little top heavy. And so I'm going to multiple doctors, and I wasn't drug seeking. I didn't know what drug seeking even was back then. I was just trying to fix myself, right? Because I had been taught by my nurse mother that got to fix yourself. So I'm going to, a mental health doctor for anxiety and depression, and they're giving me Valium and all of these depression, antipsychotic type of drugs. And then I'm going to my other doctors, and he's giving me muscle relaxers and somas and Flexerol. And then my other doctor is loading me down with what started out as Percocet. And then I got to a point with Percocet that it just wasn't enough, right? I couldn't get back to normal. Oh my God, I've taken 5 Percocets this morning and I still feel sick. And so then I switched. I moved to methadone because it was on the street. It was available. When I tell you my whole entire family has issues with opiates, I'm not kidding. My whole entire family, my mother, my brother, my dad, my stepdad, my kids, I mean, my aunts, my uncles, everybody I knew in my whole sphere had a script of something, right? And so I just thought it was normal. And if people said to me, "Oh, I think you might have a problem," I'd be like, my doctor gave it to me. What are you talking about? That's just crazy. And it was only when I started to lose everything in my life years later that I realized that, okay, yeah, here we go. And it was a long road between, oh my gosh, I'm addicted. I have a problem. And oh my gosh, I feel back to normal again. I mean, we're talking probably almost 10 years. And so I kept going to the doctor, and they just kept handing me scripts. And that lasted all the way to 2012. And for some reason, one of my insurance companies bounced back, I don't know, $1,000 payment to one of my doctor's offices. So when I came in, they were just like, "Well, sorry, we can't see you anymore, and we can't give you any more meds until you pay this $1,000 bill." And that was so devastating because, I mean, I'm at the doctor every 28 days making sure I get my meds. And not only did the meds become, I needed them to be well, I needed them to pay my bills too, right? And that's one aspect that kept it in this vicious cycle for me. Like, I wanted to walk away. I needed to walk away, but I also needed to pay rent. And when you're in a network of other addicts, you're bartering, you're borrowing, you're fronting. There's just so much that goes along with that. And so I found myself at the end of that. I had a very good job. I had always had a good work ethic. I worked for a big fucking Pettit Oil. I worked for a big oil company. I set gas prices for the whole Olympic Peninsula every day for many years. And I found that I couldn't get to work anymore. I just couldn't get normal enough. I was calling out all the time. I was starting to have to plan my life around, am I going to have medication? So can I go to a kid's parent teacher conference? Oh, I'm not going to have medication that day, so I probably won't be able to make it. And, then losing house, relationships were bad, farming out my kids because, they're better if they go with their dad than if they stay with me. And I hit rock bottom. I hit absolutely rock bottom. And you don't want to know where rock bottom was? It was inside our county frickin' jail. Now, I'm not the type of girl that goes to fucking jail, but I am the type of girl that'll start some shit if I need to. And I woke up and just I had lost everything. I had lost my house. My family's was mad at me. Everybody was mad, just like you are so low and you have nobody. You feel like nobody understands the hell that you're living in. And let me tell you, I want to talk about DTs and withdrawals. I see a bunch of you dropped off here, but I'm thankful for the ones that have stayed. So DTs, as easy as they sound, like, oh yeah, you have a stomach ache, or maybe you're having hot flashes or sweats, or whatnot. DTs make you want to just end it all, be done, be done. I remember so many times laying in bed after 2 or 3 days. I feel like I stayed in bed for 10 fucking years, and that is no joke, because I'd feel well, I get up, I do what I need to do, clean the house, paint the house, whatever, because you have extreme ups and downs, right? And I just felt like I can't do this anymore. And I just remember bawling at 2 o'clock in the morning and just being like, just take me, just let me go. I can't do this anymore. I'm not I don't contribute to society. I'm not taking care of my family. I'm not doing anything that that I love to do. So I just begged God to take me out. Not that I'm very religious or anything, but I think, the whole higher power, you have to have a higher power to come out of that, or a belief in something. And I turned on the TV one day and there was a news report about kratom. And I just kept thinking that there's got to be a natural herb out there, because I had dabbled with some Chinese herbs, and being poor, of course, I treated my kids with echinacea, because you can't afford to take them to a doctor when they're sick. So I had a good grasp on that type of medicine, and I started doing research. And this was in 2013, 2014. And there wasn't any research out there. There absolutely was nothing out there. I found a few Oxford studies, and of course the FDA propaganda was, it's terrible, it'll kill you, you know, blah blah blah. And I did like a year's worth of research, and before I tried it. And then I actually tried it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay, I stopped shaking. My stomach calmed down. I don't feel high, but I don't feel sick. Oh my God, I feel normal." And that was what led me out. I mean, and I don't advocate that people try kratom, do kratom. I'm just telling you what helped me and where I was at when it all, when I found it. And I just want, people to understand that kratom doesn't just help with opiate withdrawal. I mean, it does. It does. Don't get me wrong. But I had been on so many antidepressants. My mother was a bipolar manic depressant with split personality disorder. And so from the time that I was very young, she had been locked up in a lot of state facilities. So I was very aware of mental health in the 90s and going and visiting her in these places. And I just accepted, okay, I got to take all of these drugs. So back then, lithium and oh God, what were some of the ones? Rasperidone and Lexapro and Wellbutrin, you name it. I took it to try to make myself feel better and to not have violent ups and downs, right? Because I was drinking in between all of that. So, you have oh, I feel great. You have a manic and you're out partying, you're having fun. And next thing boom, you're crashing, you're in the dirt face first. And this is it. This is the end. And I did that for almost 20 goddamn years of my life, because I believed that Big Pharma was making it better for me. And I have since learned now, with all of the years that I've used kratom, that kratom's what's helped me the most in my just my mental stability. And I can't explain that to people. At this point anymore, it's not even about opiate withdrawals for me. It's about staying even keeled and not having those violent extremes, ups and downs. And, I do know that Big Pharma is using or is doing studies with kratom to figure out how they can isolate and still that little, derivative in there and synthesize it and use it for themselves. And I'm going to talk to you guys about Big Pharma and taking them on, and the FDA. We'll get into all of that. So I'm kind of just trying to simple this up. Hey, Stevie, how you doing, girl? Hope you're hanging in there. Let's see. Let's go to the next. So yeah, that's my that we call those night and day. This is day. That's night. Okay, so childhood trauma. I really talk about this a lot on this show. What prevents from living from childhood. Oh, yeah. So, rejection trauma, betrayal trauma, abandonment trauma, injustice trauma. And, I think it's important that we understand that addiction is a deeper rooted issue. It's not just, oh, you like drugs, because that's not what it comes down to. You're trying to uh console something, you're trying to quiet something in you, that instead of facing it head on, like we should, we just try to blanket it and cover it up. And I love what Russell Brand says here. He says cannabis isn't a gateway drug, alcohol isn't a gateway drug, nicotine isn't a gateway drug, and caffeine isn't a gateway drug. Trauma is a gateway. Childhood abuse is gateway. That M word, I can't say that word. You know, kids is a gateway. Neglect is a gateway. Drug abuse, violent behavior, hypersexuality. Now I had a problem with that one. And self-harm. Oh, I had a problem with that one too. Are often symptoms, not the cause of a much bigger issue. And it almost always stems from childhood filled with trauma, absent parents, and abusive families. But most people are too busy laughing at the homeless and drug addicts to realize your own children could be in their shoes 15 years from now. Communicate, empathize, and rehabilitate. I love that message from Russell. And yeah, it's almost always stems from childhood filled with trauma. I was born to a teenage mother, and I didn't know my dad growing up. I did later in life, but my stepdad was very young. I mean, they were 14 years older than me. My mom was 16 years older than me, and my stepdad was 14 years older than me. I partied right alongside my parents growing up. I was the responsible one. I took care of my brothers. I made dinner. I cleaned the house. This was all at 8, 9, 10 years old. At 12, I was driving my brothers to baseball practice and coaching their teams. I mean, I was this super nurturing mother child, and everybody would always say, "Oh, look at Chanda. She's such a good little mother." But because I had been indoctrinated to take care of my whole entire family, by 14 or 15, I knew my life was going to be have a child, take care of that child. I mean, that's where I had been preordained to go. And of course, everything fell apart for my family when I was like 12 or 13. I mean, my parents had good jobs. My mom was a ER nurse. My dad worked for the government, on nuclear subs, but they did the weekend party or the weekend warrior type of thing, right? And now I can look back on it and see the amount of drugs that they were sneaking and using behind closed doors that we as children didn't understand. But I just grew up wanting to party and play because that's what I saw my parents do. So by the time I was in my young teens, 13 through 15, I even though I was academically good in school, I did a lot of extracurricular stuff. I still was known as the party girl. I mean, on cheerleading and drill team, I was the party girl. I mean, that's just who I was. And so, of course, I hurried up and met an older man. Yeah, he was a drummer, of course. I, had to get into the whole band scene back in the early 90s, grunge in Seattle. So I did get to meet a lot of cool people and I know a lot of cool shit. But I I just accepted that's who I was, and, I didn't act like I had trauma, right? I had a good childhood. My parents bought me anything I wanted, and, but now I look back on it, and doing a four-way hit of window pane acid with my mother at 15 years old probably traumatized me, and I didn't realize it. So, as I got older and into my 20s, then I really had that broken, weird relationship with my parents where I do, substances with them. And sadly, when I was 25, my stepfather who raised me my whole entire life, he ended it all. He put a pistol in his mouth and pulled the trigger at about 6 o'clock in the morning. And I had grown up in a house where he had been like that, my whole life. He always would get drunk and then, get that hungover blues is what I call it. When you wake up the next day and you go, "Oh God, what the hell did I do yesterday?" And all that guilt comes flooding over you and it just feels like it's not worth it anymore. He fought that most of his life and finally he couldn't do it anymore. And so, yeah, I lost him at 25. 24 or 25. And my brother had just turned 18, my little brother. And now I look back and I just think at what we did to him. God, he was such a little kid and we just left him. And it rips my heart out now, especially when I look at the addiction and the problems that he's had the rest of his life. I always thought this kid, I mean, he was going to be somebody smart and educated and went to school. And I don't care who you are, what education you have. When addiction comes for you, it will take you, and it will take you so far, places you never thought that you would be. And I've been in some places I never thought I would be because of it. I know I'm kind of rambling today, but there's so much that I want to cover with you guys in this topic. So I want to say this was one of Pasta and my first show. So let's just check it out. Oh, well, why did that happen? Go back, go back. Okay. Don't know why it won't let me play. Let's see. There we go. Maybe my internet's dragging today. Is my internet dragging?
I'm going to ask some questions today that, we'll just get the average person. Maybe there's people who's on that kind of fence, Chanda, thinking, is Kratom right for me and stuff. There's not a lot of doctors out there or scientists talking about it. We need to rely on people like yourself who, like you said, it saved your life. But once again, it might not be for them. So fun show today. Can't wait to get it done.
I was addicted to pain pills. I was using heroin at the time. I was getting on Google every single day looking for a way to get clean. And I remember starting to have tremors and seizures. Within 10 minutes of buying the product, I mixed it in orange juice and I stopped shaking. I stopped seizing. I stopped dry heaving. I wasn't withdrawing anymore. I was convinced since then that this was a lot bigger. Basically taking the FDA and the DEA's public safety concerns and kind of breaking them down into why are they saying that this is illegal? Why are they saying this is
So I really relate to that.
I really related to that because I was the same way. I remember thinking, when I was in deep in the throes of my addiction, there's got to be something out there that, at that point I had taken a lot of different Chinese herbs and stuff. So I started talking to the botanical stores and the herb store owners, of what could I take? Because at that point I was in DT so much and so often because I could not keep up with my habit that I would try to treat symptoms. Like, okay, how do I treat my sleeplessness? How do I treat my shaking? How do I treat my, my stomach problems? And so I heard about Kratom on a news report in the middle of the night. And I did very much like she did. I started researching online anything I could about Kratom and talking to anybody who knew anything about it, because at the time nobody knew about it. I got on Kratom in 2014, but I had learned about it in 2013. And it took me about a year to really phase off of pills and onto Kratom. But the information that I did find, you had to go deep into medical files. That's the only place I could find studies on Kratom at the time. And a lot of pseudoscience, of course, just propaganda shit that's being pumped out there. And we're going to get into that. That's got much worse, depending on what political party's been in power over the last couple of years.
So that was just a little breakdown. Like I said, you can go catch all of the original To Hell and Backs on Roar Media over on Rokfin, and you can hear my story. I'm kind of just doing a little jump around, because a lot of you know my story, and you've been so supportive. And, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, if you would have told me 10 years ago, you are going to travel the country, you're going to have people supporting you all around the world. You're going to be an advocate. You're going to be a voice on so many different stages. I would have laughed my ass off. I had I had no support system. I had no connection to my community at all 10 years ago, you know. I had no friends. I just had family, and the whole family is rooted in this addiction together, you know. Oh, mom gets her script Thursday and brother gets his script on Wednesday, you know, and we're all trading and doing that. It was a world that I was encapsulated in for over 10 years, and I just thought I would never break free of it. And that is who I was for the rest of my life. And I didn't accept it, but I did accept it. I was just like, okay, I'm not worthy of having support from a community or even being a part of this society. So I think that that's one of the most isolating things about addiction, is that you just feel like you don't belong in society anymore, right? Because of the way that we talk about addiction, the way we treat addicts, homelessness, because they go hand in hand. When you're busy trying to make yourself well, you're not trying to pay your bills, right? And so I would have just laughed you out of the room. And now I look back and just the amazing journey I have had, because I've had support from people like you and the people that I've helped and the people that my story has helped. I've had people come to me and say, I heard about Kratom from you and I tried it and it helped me. But like I said, I will always tell you, I think Kratom's addictive. I absolutely do. And if you don't have an addiction problem that you're fighting, I don't advocate that you go try it. But if you are deep in the throes like I was, it turned me around. Now, I've seen a lot of people that it doesn't work for, that it's not strong enough, or they don't get that I feel good feeling, so they don't stop using it, but or that they don't, they don't want to use it. Um, for me, it was about being well. I didn't want to be high anymore. I just wanted to be able to go to the grocery store or to take a shower and put my shoes on. When I was deep in withdrawals, the roughest, toughest thing is to get yourself in the shower. You're cold, you're hot, you have stomach cramps, you have diarrhea, you're shaking, you feel like you're going to throw up. And then you got to get in the shower, and every muscle in your body hurts. When you take opiates to alleviate pain, you F up those receptors in your head, and now you feel every bit of pain. I mean, I felt worse pain on opiates than I ever did. And pain management will tell you that. They will say the more you take the worse you're going to hurt. But we didn't know that. So 2012, we start seeing the government realizing, oh shit, we got an epidemic here, we got a problem, and they start changing the rules about how opiates can be dispersed. And really, that's what tripped a lot of people up, was drug contracts. The amount of money that was made from these pain clinics and specialty clinics, it's just mind blowing. Here, I don't know much about the botanical queen, but I love her story. So I brought a little clip. She had Crohn's disease. Now, I had my gallbladder removed, I'm going to say in 2004, 2005. And my surgeon didn't tell me it would send me into instant IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. And of course, I was still drinking back then. So alcohol on top of IBS. I was miserable, miserable. And opiates helped that. So really, that was one of the catalysts that moved me away from, that moved me into opiates, I would say. It's because it helped my stomach problems so much. Like, oh, I finally get relief after 10 years. I mean, I could eat something after that surgery, and within 10 minutes, I was running to the bathroom, and I was working full time. And, so when the opiates came in and made that better, it was like, okay. And so let's hear this little clip from her about Crohn's disease and how Kratom helped her.
He told me that, I know you're suffering with Crohn's disease. So I do have Crohn's disease. It's a chronic illness, autoimmune disease. It's when your body attacks your intestines. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to just Google really quick. So I typed in Reddit, Kratom, Crohn's disease. And everything that came up was positive, not a single negative thing. So unlike a lot of people, my experience of researching Kratom was a quick, short, positive one. And I was like, listen, I can't find anything bad about it, so I'm going to give it a try. So I gave it a try, and it was the first time I had felt relief from my Crohn's disease since first having the symptoms. I think at that time it was like 3 years prior. And wow. I couldn't believe it. I was ecstatic about it. And then from there, I had been taking it. I was really good about taking breaks because I have regular colonoscopies and all of that. And so eventually I started a Facebook group, which is called Botanical Queens. And the reason I started that was because Facebook groups were very heavily filtered with the discussion. Certain vendors you couldn't talk about if they didn't like the person, or, you know, just having to censor certain words. And I didn't understand at the time. Now I understand the censorship, obviously, but then I started my own
Facebook is not a
group.
fan of the word kratom.
Right.
So yeah, about a year and a half, 2 years into my kratom journey, is when the FDA all of a sudden just decides that they're going to schedule kratom, and I was just devastated. Like, oh my God, they're making me go back on opiates. I finally get free, and they're going to take this away from me. And so I started organizing. At that point, I'd been in, political movement for about a year, because I immediately, once I got cleaned, I wanted the world to know what the fuck they did to us. And it wasn't just me, it was everybody I knew. We had to start talking about it. So I hit the ground. And of course, that was my stump speech when I was out there campaigning for Bernie and, progressives, was I'm a recovering opiate addict. And so I started organizing. And of course, Facebook was terrible. They blocked us, they censored us, they suppressed our stuff. But there still is very many great kratom groups on Facebook. I think one's called the Chill Tree. I mean, we had to come up with names where we could actually have communities. And yeah, there's a lot of great vendors across the country. You can now buy kratom in a lot of different gas station stores, smoke shops. But here's the thing about kratom. Kratom has alkaloids in it. I should have grabbed one of my kratom bags to show you guys. Kratom is a ground up leaf that grows in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Thailand. You'll die if you get caught growing it in Thailand. But it's a very tall tree. It almost looks like an alder tree. It just shoots straight up. And it's the leaves. It's a whole leaf tea that I take. I make a tea out of it. And they just grind it up. And, coming from the mentality that plants are better than poison, this is a leaf, and these people have been taking it for centuries. Like literally in Indonesia, the farmers have been taking kratom for centuries. And so we built a group on Facebook, and the first time I ever got a rally permit at my state capitol was for a kratom rally. And now the FDA was lying and saying that mass people were dying from kratom overdoses and that it was a danger. We have to get it off the streets. And they just had bullshit propaganda, pseudoscience. There was no studies to back up anything they said. Basically, Big Pharma said, oh shit, we're losing money because this all natural plant, people are switching to it. So we got to cut that out. And not to mention, they want to isolate the alkaloid in it, so that way they can sell it back to us, right? They wanted to take it so they could sell it back to us. Well, we hit the ground. The only time I have seen any political group push back a 3-letter agency was the kratom fight. And we hit them hard. We hit them with real facts, with real scientists, with universities that were willing. University of Florida did a big study for us. Thank you, Dingo, for putting the actual name. It's Mingtasposis. I can never say the real plant name of it. Some people call it kratom. Some people call it kratom. Anyway, so we pushed them back. They didn't give us a comment period. They didn't do anything. They just came at us. So then we saw the DEA come after us after we pushed the FDA back. So I spent, from 2016 till now, talking to elected officials. That's one of my very first questions when I meet a new elected official, like, what's your stance on kratom? Because a lot want to outlaw it because they don't understand it. A lot of them want to outlaw and push you into the MAT programs, which is the medically assisted treatment, which Poston and I have done some really good deep dives on that. And we actually push them back. Love the kratom community. This is an amazing community. This is my little community. We've held multiple rallies at our state capitals. We've sat down with our elected officials. We're calling them, we're sending them literature. And really that has helped. And to this day, we still have access to kratom, even though they've been trying to take it from us for at least the last 8 years. and it motivated me to do this, really. I mean, it gave me a new purpose, a purpose that I didn't have before, which is what I needed at that exact moment. This says, tell the public that Oxycontin is safe for 11 years, classifies cannabis as a dangerous scheduled class 1 narcotic that has no medical purpose. So right alongside advocating for kratom, I was always a cannabis advocate, right? I mean, marijuana is safer than alcohol. And I absolutely believe that growing up in a home full of alcoholics. If dad would have been allowed to smoke a joint when he got off work versus drink a 6-pack, I know that things would have been different in my home life. And so, of course, I hit the ground for marijuana too. I live in Washington State, where it is now legal. We legalized in we passed it in 2015. It became legal in 2016. By 2017, I was running a 502 shop. That was the initiative 502. I was running a marijuana shop in Port Townsend, Washington. And I knew as much about cannabis as anybody. I liked it. I smoked it. I grew up with it. But going and managing a shop, I've learned so much. And I've got to meet so many great people around the country who, for one, a lot of states are still fighting for legalization. And two, a lot of the states that have legalized still have people locked up for freaking years and years and years that need to be released. And so even though the fight has ended here in Washington for legalization, the fight's not going to end till every person who's behind bars for a plant is let free, right? There's some people sitting in prison right now with life sentences for an ounce of marijuana. My ex did 2 years in hardcore Louisiana prisons for a joint. And it was probably some Mexican brown bud at that. It wasn't even good weed. And it just affects so many lives. So what I've seen cannabis help is stop cancer growth. And I worked in a medical marijuana shop. I learned from a woman who had treated herself for cancer. She had breast cancer, double mastectomy, and she thought she was going to die. So she literally learned how to make it herself and treated herself. And learning from her and taking her classes, I got to help people. I mean, there's nothing more heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching as somebody walking in, looking you eye to eye and saying, I just got a cancer diagnosis yesterday. I hear marijuana helps. Help me. And we're not allowed to give medical advice because we're not trained for that, even though I did go to Seattle College for medical marijuana. And I now understand how it works, how the cannabinoid works on the endocannabinoid system, and that your body literally is set up to have marijuana, to have cannabinoids in your system. You have little keyholes, and it is the key, and it just goes in there and plugs those receptors and gives you that sense of well-being. And so it stops cancer growth, reduces neurological impairments. I got to meet Charlotte. You remember from Charlotte's Web, if you've ever heard of the strain Charlotte's Web, which is a CBD strain. I got to meet her at CanCon, and amazing what it has done for children with epilepsy and neurological disorders. I mean, it's night and day. If you've ever watched those videos where they take a little bit of the Rick Simpson oil and then they're fine 2 minutes later. I mean, and to keep this medicine away from people. When my real father was passing away in 2017 or 18, he was living in Salt Lake City, and he wanted edibles so bad. And I wasn't allowed to send them to him. I wasn't allowed to help him because I would have been breaking a major law, right? And to this day, it still hurts to know my dad spent his last 6 weeks in such dire pain, and I could have alleviated that, but I wasn't allowed to. It relaxes muscles, prevents migraines. It treats glaucoma. Now, we've known this for many years. They've known that since the 60s. It treats ADD, ADHD, reduces IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and Crohn's disease. Now, we're talking about marijuana here. Cures epilepsy, prevents Alzheimer's, treats PMS. Oh, that's always a good one, right? antipsychotic, makes biodegradable plastics, makes paper, makes fuels, solvents, lubricates, makes industrial textiles, makes consumer textiles, makes building materials, can end deforestation, could end dependency on oil, gas, and coal, can be grown almost anywhere. Still wondering why it's illegal. And yeah, thank God we are getting past a little of that, right? Farron, I see you in here. Farron, sorry I've been MIA. Let's show this. Sorry I've been MIA, been busy getting ready to move back to DC. When are you going back to DC? You and Oz and I need to get together and catch up and do a show soon. It's been too long. Love your passion and your drive to bring truth to everyone. Love you, Chanda. Farron, I adore you. You know I love you too. I've been catching your shows every now and then. You're doing great work. You are doing such an amazing job, and you crack me up. Your Queen impressions had me rolling all last week. You're doing a great job, Farron, and I'm glad to see you. Yes, let's do a show. We definitely need to do a show. Let's do a gossipy, like Hollywood type of show. And thank you so much for the donation. That's going to go to helping getting me to DC, because I'm going to be in DC on October 8th for Hands Off Julian Assange. And I'm bummed that you don't live there, but I'm glad you're going back. So next time I go, I will have somebody to hang out with. October 15th. I'm going to miss you by about 4 days. I can't believe you're going back, but good luck to you. Good luck to you. I see the weather's turning there. I was a little sad. Like, oh, I get to go to DC when it's raining. I never get to go to DC when it's nice. It's always raining and crappy when I go to DC. So here's a few pictures of me out there doing my activism. This was the Dope magazine cover. That's just one of those stupid like spoof booths at CanCon, which was really cool. I had VIP passes to CanCon. I got to meet amazing people. I got to do all of the workshops for 2-3 days. I got to meet the former President Fox from Mexico. He was there because apparently Mexico's government is heavily investing into cannabis and the hemp industries. So that was really interesting. There was a lot of really interesting stuff at that one. And then the one on the bottom there, Kratom, that was one of Kratom rallies that I held, just informational. Let me tell you about this. I don't have it. I had it for a long time. The Department of Health and our health department in Washington State showed up at a Kratom rally at the Capitol and brought these little pieces of paper that looked like a poop emoji. And it said, "Are you drinking poop?" And they tried to fearmonger our crowd into thinking that they were going to get E. coli by taking Kratom. Remember, there was a scare a couple of years ago where they tried to equivalent Kratom being contaminated. Well, there was never any proof of that, just like there's never any proof of any of the shit they say about Kratom. And we educated those ladies. Like, they probably had only heard of Kratom 1 or 2 days, and then they come try to tell us how dangerous it is. And I was shocked that they would take the time to send these people out to accost us, but that's just the lengths that propaganda will go. And of course, the hashtag I am Kratom, that was when I was a state delegate inside the Democratic Party for Washington State for Bernie Sanders. And being in that space and admitting that I was an addict was very scary for me. I didn't know if these people are going to hate me. The Democrats are so judgmental anyways, as it is, but I knew I had an important message and I just didn't fucking care anymore. I was just like, people need to hear what I'm talking about, what I've been through, and what so many other people are going through. And that's what I did. And the bottom one with the marijuana plant, that was downtown Seattle at Cannabis March rally. And that was for prisoners to be released that have been doing, insane sentences for a plant, basically. There's still so many people locked up. And this was when I worked at the marijuana store. Like I said, I learned so much about helping people. There's nothing more rewarding than giving somebody relief. And so anybody ever tries to tell you any different, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. The literature's out there. The receipts are out there. It's helping people. And the guy down in the corner there, that's Jared Alloway. He does Marijuana is Safer Than Shirts. This has a big marijuana leaf on it, but you can't see it because of the screen. anyways, he does shirts that say marijuana is safer than, and then you can put whatever you want. And some of them are hilarious, but it's an amazing message. Anywhere I wear this shirt, I get people to stop and say, I absolutely agree with you. It's about changing the stigma that has been intentionally placed around marijuana and cannabis, right? And you can go back and watch some of our older To Hell and Backs where we talk about Randall Hearst, the big magazine newspaper tycoon back in the 20s and 30s. He's the one who was super scared that marijuana hemp was going to come take over the paper industry and he was going to lose money. So Reefer Madness actually was a push from them. I mean, how shocking is that? But a lot of the hemp products that are outlawed that we're not allowed to use is because of that. It didn't even have to do with how dangerous they thought marijuana was. It was industry, big industry was going to lose money. So we got to put it down because we literally could replace everything with hemp. Everything. We've seen it. I mean, there's so many videos of composite houses that have been made out of hemp, furniture. There's just so much that we can do with hemp. Okay, so now we're at the TYT clip. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's talk about fentanyl for a second. I've done some deep dives into fentanyl. If you don't know what fentanyl is, it is 100 times stronger than morphine, and they're sneaking it into everything. Let me tell. Okay, so fentanyl used to only be used in operation rooms or for extreme pain. Anesthesiologists basically were the only ones using fentanyl, and then it started coming out of China, the active ingredients in fentanyl, and the cartels got in on it. And so the cartels would then be pressing it to make it look like normal pharmaceuticals, an Oxycontin 5, a morphine 30, a whatnot, and bringing it across the border, flooding into America. Well, then something changed with COVID, and that was the active ingredients that were in fentanyl from China they couldn't ship it. They couldn't get it out of port, right? Just like everything else, nothing was moving then. And so they sold their recipes basically to the cartels. So that just cut China out. They don't even need China anymore. What's being called bathtub fentanyl is being manufactured in, and sent into the United States. It could be manufactured here. I'm sure it is. And so what we're seeing is people thinking that they're buying a simple pharmaceutical, but it's made out of fentanyl. So Tom Petty is a good example. Tom Petty died of a fentanyl overdose. He thought it was a Percocet. He had a injured hip. He came off stage. A fan said, "Here, you're in pain, take this." And the thing about fentanyl, it's like a chocolate chip cookie or a blueberry muffin. One cookie is going to have 50 chocolate chips in it. The other one can have 1,000 in it. There's just no way to know how strong it is. So even the chemists that are mixing this shit up, they don't know. So fentanyl is very deadly. I have brought you guys a ton of videos of how quickly it can take you down just by touching it. It literally can absorb through your skin and take you down within 2 or 3 minutes. We saw some fear mongering about this last month, and I didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I want to talk about it today. So this is TYT and Anna. So let's play it. I'll probably end up stopping it a couple times because, this one got me.
We will secure the border and stop this movement of fentanyl that's the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. I don't know if you just saw that story of a young woman who picked up a dollar bill sitting on the floor of McDonald's and fell down because fentanyl was on that dollar bill. This is how deadly this is.
You're not, your body is not able to experience an overdose event by merely touching a dollar bill that is laced with fentanyl. The fact that this insanity has been repeated by a United States lawmaker on national television, on a network, by the way, that has also debunked this notion, is mind-blowing. And it also it proves something that we've already known, but it's just like a very big brazen example of it. Republicans don't understand anatomy or science or how the human body works. And so it's super easy to lie to them and fearmonger to them about, look, fentanyl is dangerous. And there are many deaths associated with fentanyl overdose. That is a big problem and we should do something about it. But we should also be accurate about how someone would overdose from this drug. And it's not by merely touching a dollar bill that is allegedly laced with.
Okay, so she says, know the science. Your body is not going to overdose from merely touching fentanyl. It can't work that way. Your body doesn't absorb it that way, and that this is fear mongering. And okay, yeah, maybe it's fear mongering. And the original story about the woman who picked up the dollar bill at McDonald's, maybe that was a plant story. Yeah, I'll give you that. Maybe the Republicans are using this. But Anna, for you to say that you don't know the science, if you think that you can die this way from fentanyl, you are so ill-informed and so privileged that you've got your head straight up your ass. Let me tell you, as an addict who's been surrounded by addicts my whole entire life, yes, you can. And there's so many videos of officers who have responded that have just dropped by touching it. And so I brought an example of that to show you just how quickly it absorbs into your system and how fast it can take you down.
Yeah. That stuff's no joke, dude. It's super dangerous. Gotta be really careful. I hate dealing with it. Paul 6, Army 1141 for my partner. You alright, dude? Paul 6, code cover. Hey, dude. Wake up. Hey, buddy.
Paul 6,
Yes, code cover.
code cover for 91 Paul 6, you tell me.
Paul 6, I need 1141, code 3.
10-4. Unit for 435
Hey, buddy. Just breathe, buddy. Breathe. 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 It's all right.
10-4 Paul 10.
Breathe. 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 Okay. It's all right. It's all right, buddy. You're okay. Breathe. 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 It's okay. I got you. I got you. Breathe. Breathe.
91 6, confirming on 435,
It's okay. Breathe. It's okay. Breathe. It's okay. Give me the air. I need Narcan. I've already administered 2.
10-4 administered 2 Narcan.
It's okay. Just keep breathing. Focus, buddy. Focus. Focus. Just focus. We're in the back parking lot of the mortuary.
In the back parking lot of the
For Anna to say that that's not the science, that's not how it works, is so irresponsible for the TYT viewers. It's, how could she actually have never seen any of these? There's so much footage of people just barely coming into contact with it, and this is the result. I mean, we have to talk about Narcan and naloxone. It needs to be available in every state. I know there's a lot of Republican states that aren't fighting it. They don't want it, but it saves lives. And it's inhumane and uncompassionate to tell somebody they can't have something that would save their lives. It just floors me that TYT would be so brazen to tell you that this was a Republican one-sided propaganda. Yeah, it just fucking floors me. And it's just more of their privileged bullshit, right? That's all I see from them. That just infuriated me. Where the hell does she get off? So, I advocate for Narcan, naloxone, any of these things that can bring somebody back. I mean, if they live for another day, maybe the next day they'll make a better choice. Now, thank God I never overdosed. I'm sure many times I was pretty close, because I'll tell you, I had a tolerance that nobody I know has ever had. Like, I could do as many as 40 to 50 pills in a day and still be alive and functioning and just fine. I felt fine. That's the way opiates work. You have to take more, you have to take more, you have to take more. And we have to make this available to, not just officers that are in the field, but to everybody. You should be able to go pick it up at your health department. And I know in some states you can. I know it saved a few of my family members. It's not saved a few of my family members, but I think everybody should have it who is dealing with an addiction problem, especially now with fentanyl being. I was at a doctor's appointment yesterday, and the doctor was telling me how there's gummy bears that people think are CBD gummy bears that are marijuana infused, and they're fentanyl infused. Cocaine, people think they're buying cocaine, and it's fentanyl. Muscle relaxers, Xanax, you name it. If you think you're buying it on the black market, it probably is based in fentanyl nowadays. And basically, that's what's happening. So fucking irresponsible at TYT. Anna, you're so privileged. Just shut the hell up. Oh, yeah, let's look at this. So, saving a life by knowing how to use Narcan spray. It's just a nose spray, man. You pill it and you spray it. You just saw that with that officer. That officer was okay. He did survive. So, Fentanyl facts. Fentanyl and other synthetic opiates are the most common drugs involved in overdose deaths. Fentanyl is 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. Just 2 salt-sized grains of fentanyl can be enough to cause an overdose. 2 pieces of salt. Fentanyl is tasteless and odorless. Assume any drug that isn't purchased directly from a pharmacy or dispensary contains fentanyl. So that's the mentality that, I thank God I got clean before fentanyl took over. And I thank God for that, because fentanyl would have grabbed me and took me down. I know it would have. I absolutely have no doubt of that. 48-year-old former drug addict and mom of 3 graduates from college. She said, stop selling yourself short. You don't know what tomorrow might bring, so you might consider starting today. And I love that message, because you never know what tomorrow could bring. Like I said, if you would have told me 10 years ago, I'd be sitting here right now with, so many of you watching me, supporting me, the incredible network that I have. I would have laughed at you. I would have said, no way. I don't even have a friend as it is, right? That's the way it was. So this is another story that pissed me off for the way that it's framed up. And I'll explain to you after we play it. So this is fentanyl is showing up in different colors, and they think it's because they want it to look like candy, but that's not what's really going on. We'll talk about it.
At first glance, it may look like candy, or in this case, sidewalk chalk. Its forms may differ, but all fit the bill for rainbow fentanyl. It's the same highly toxic synthetic opioid, just a brightly colored version, and that's what's concerning for law enforcement.
My first thought was, why are they making these look like a bag of candy? This could be, trying to target younger users.
Over the weekend.
Okay, right there, that right there. This could be trying to look like candy to target younger users. That is not what's happening at all. And this guy is in a position of power and doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. The reason it's coming colored like this is so that way it can look like pharmaceuticals. A Oxycontin 5 milligram is white. An Oxycontin 10 milligram is yellow. An Oxycontin 15 is blue. A morphine is 30 is purple. They want to be able to press these with home presses and make them look like whatever drug that they are claiming that it is. It's not so it looks like candy, so kids will like it. You freaking idiots. But anyways.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection Port Director Michael Humphreys and his department seized more than 12,000 of these rainbow-colored tablets at the border near Nogales, Arizona. And just last week, the Department of Justice issued a warning to people in Oregon after rainbow fentanyl showed up at 2 notable seizures. While the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Tampa PD, and St. Pete Police all say rainbow fentanyl has yet to pop up here, fentanyl in all forms is still widely on the radar. In March, the CDC classified it as the leading cause of death among Americans 18 to 45. Authorities say it's often mixed in with other drugs, and users may not be aware of what they're getting. One of the proposed solutions, fentanyl test strips. For some, it's a controversial approach, but one that is gaining traction.
We started by seeing that there was a massive overdose crisis here in California.
In 2019, Allison Hiller and Dean Schold founded FentCheck, a nonprofit that partners with companies to distribute fentanyl test strips in public places like bars and restaurants.
We need to make sure that that person who doesn't have a tolerance to opioids and doesn't have a tolerance to fentanyl has the accessibility to make it as easy as possible, test what they're about to put in their bodies.
Currently, fentanyl test strips are illegal in Florida and classified as drug paraphernalia. But most recently, states like California, New Mexico, and Wisconsin all passed laws legalizing the strips. Just one of several proposed solutions as law enforcement brace for this latest, now brightly colored form of fentanyl.
Right. So there was a couple of things that pissed me off about that. I mean, that the Barney Fife who's saying, oh, they're trying to sell it to kids. Well, of course, but they're not making it look like candy. They're trying to make it look like pharmaceuticals. And then the test strip idea. Would people utilize this that I knew? Maybe nowadays, yes, just because it's becoming such a prevalent problem in everything that you get. So maybe it would save some lives. Maybe the users that I know prefer fentanyl, though. Can I tell you? Once you move to fentanyl from, say, even heroin or Percocet, I never was a heroin user. I was strictly pharmaceutical. But I have a lot of friends and family who moved to heroin. And that would have been where I went next if I wouldn't have found Kratom. I would have went heroin and fentanyl. But thank God I found Kratom. But for those who are now deep in the throes, maybe they would use it. I don't know. Is it a good idea? Probably, with the problem that we're having. I just don't know if that, it's just one of those things. I want to see what you guys are talking about for a second. Let's look at the chat. Yona, anything that kills helps the genocide and pleases the billionaires. Yeah, the eugenics billionaires. Absolutely. I agree with you. It's just an easy way to get rid of a whole shit ton of us really fast, right? Border Patrol, Marby Dog says Border Patrol is helping traffic the stuff across the border. Let's get real. Yes, I've been down to the border for border protests, and my biggest protest is Border Patrol and the shit that they're doing down there. We're not stupid, right? It's not just made for TV, Narcos. We know what they do. Let's see. Oh, Yona. Yeah, right. OCs, 160s are deep blue. They used to call me the street pharmacist. I was Dr. Feelgood, man, because I grew up alongside my mother who went to medical school as I was, I studied alongside of her. She taught me how to break down Latin and understand pharmaceutical names. Yeah, I could just ramble for it. I have one of my best friends is a doctor, and we flew down to the border one time. She picked my brain for 24 hours. I'm not even kidding. The stuff that doctors don't know about any of these drugs is mind blowing. But they never talk to addicts. They don't know, right? I set her straight on so many things. And now she is an amazing advocate for Kratom, even though, of course, she's never used it. And she always makes sure that other doctors and our healthcare officials understand what Kratom does and, some of the nuances. Marby Dog, fentanyl is China's revenge for what the British Empire did with the opium wars. Yes, I agree. They're using a playbook right out of the playbook. We talked about that. Pasta and I did a really good deep dive into the opium wars and the war that's being waged on the American people right now. Only trust big pharma. Yona, yeah, right. Dingo, they pumped it up through the ventilation. Yeah, probably. Let's see. Fentanyl was designed as a chemical weapon. It can be turned into gas easily. Russians use it when those Chechen terrorists took hostages at the theater to sedate them. Oh, yeah, I remember that. God, that was terrible. That, from what Fee says, they don't have problems like that anymore. I don't trust the government to run anything. I don't either. Kate says people using fentanyl right out in the open in Vancouver. When I go to grab coffee this afternoon, I bet I will see at least 50 people slumped in a fentanyl coma. Yes, so we're seeing fentanyl comas all over, Kate. We're seeing it. I mean, Philadelphia, they're bent over. I've brought you guys the videos, the clips. LA, this is a bigger problem than we've ever faced in any supposed drug war that we've ever had, right? And all the drug wars lead to is war on the actual fucking people. We have to start treating people with compassion. We have to start including them. I mean, we fight the Republicans on the safe injection sites, right? But I don't, do they have safe injection sites in Vancouver? I think they might, but can't make people go where they don't want to go. And so, I mean, there is solutions. We don't put enough sympathy into this fight is the way I feel about it. We just throw people away. Oh, they're no good. They're a drug addict, and really all it takes is some time and some love for these people and connection. It's all about the human connection. You get the human connection and you start to feel like you belong again. Kensington Avenue. Yes, I've been bringing Kensington Avenue clips. It is insane. It is absolutely insane. We have to house them. People are like, oh, well, they're drug addicts if they're homeless. Who gives a shit? They still need a roof over their heads, right? Let's see. There's just addiction as a problem. There's also chronic pain. Let's talk about that because I still suffer from chronic pain. And, my knee problems didn't go away. My back problems didn't go away just because I stopped taking. And there is this, kind of finding the balance between managing your pain and trying to battle an addiction. And that's really hard for a lot of people. And I, for a long time, I told myself, I can't give up this because I have chronic pain. And I did have chronic pain, but Kratom's helped me out so much with that on top of everything that else that it's helped me with. Let's see. I think I got one more fentanyl story, and this one's kind of shocking. I don't know why I hadn't heard this story. A doctor was accused of killing 14 of his patients with a high dose of fentanyl. So we're talking terminally ill people. Is it compassion? Is it murder? Let's see.
A jury has just found an Ohio doctor not guilty on 14 counts of murder. A doctor is accused of causing the deaths of multiple patients by ordering them large doses of the powerful painkiller fentanyl. NBC News writer Eric Ortiz joins us now. He's been tracking this story. Eric, walk us through what we know about this case and about the verdict.
Yeah, so Aaron, each of the counts against William Husel represented a patient of his in the ICU, people who were given high doses of fentanyl to help with their pain. The prosecutors in Franklin County really went all in by accusing him of murder. Essentially, they argued that he hastened their deaths by ordering 10 times the normal amount of fentanyl to patients in the ICU. Now, a lot of these patients were older, on ventilators, and near death. Husel's defense argued that he was merely giving these patients who were in extreme pain these drugs, and they made a point that there is no legal limit to how much fentanyl in a hospital setting is too much, and that's a point that appears to have worked on the jury.
And Eric, this case was one of the biggest cases against a healthcare professional really ever in this country. Do we have a sense of what this verdict could mean potentially for other doctors?
Yeah, I mean, you hear a lot about these so-called doctor death cases where medical professionals are accused of helping patients die or killing them. But it's really rare for a doctor to be accused of murder because there are good faith laws in places like Ohio, where if a doctor says they're acting in good faith, you have to take them at their word. So that's why it's so interesting that prosecutors thought they had a winnable case here. This case is going to be looked at for how doctors are treating patients in end-of-life care with high doses of drugs like fentanyl. And maybe it's not a crime, but they're going to ask, is it ethical?
Okay, so I've worked in hospice care and I've worked in 2 Alzheimer's wards. I have worked with a lot of people that were at end of life, and let me tell you, hospice does this already. They have been doing it's something we don't talk about. It's not something that there's laws wrote about or anything. It's humane, right? When somebody is in the last days of dying, and if you know anybody who works hospice, it's a process to die. It's hard work to die. It is hard work to die. And they get to a point where what they call is snowing them under. And it used to be morphine and maybe some Ativan and maybe a few other things that would help people just snow under and go to sleep, and then they'll pass away. But here's the thing. Morphine is very dirty of a drug. Of all the drugs, all the opiates I ever took, morphine was the worst. It would tear my stomach up and just give me terrible gas pain and stomach pain, and just the way that I would feel on morphine. And I always thought, oh God, we give these poor old people this morphine. And I just, how could that be comforting in their last days? Was this guy helping people? I guess that the court said he was, he wasn't found guilty. His defense was there's no law saying I can't do it. And so I think we'll see this more because they're probably going to move away from, morphine hits you like a ton of bricks, but so does fentanyl, because they do give fentanyl in the hospital. When my partner had a double bypass 2 years ago, I was in the operating room prep and they hit him with fentanyl, and I had the video camera on. I was recording it, and I saw it hit him hard. I mean, like, boom. So I think that they're phasing out, the morphine. Many surgeries that I've had, morphine is kind of the go-to for these guys. And it's out of date. It's something that was used in the 1800s. We have better medications now. And so I think we'll be seeing it prescribed to people as they get into their dying days. So let's see. I want to shout out my Rokfin. You guys have been awesome on the Rokfin today. I can't believe I've had 20 of you over there at some point. ARIM, thank you so much for your support and your donations. ARIM single-handedly keeps a lot of us going. Kate, you hanging out? Leonard Trust, welcome. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Hawkified, hey Linda, I love my press badge. That thing's so awesome. I can't wait to print it out. Oh, I see Oz. Oz is hanging out over there. You guys could hang out with Roz. With Oz, not Roz. Make sure I didn't miss anybody over there. Well, thank you guys so much. Okay, I brought one more. I haven't seen Jilly this morning. She must be doing something else, but Jilly already saw this, but I brought this because she and I were talking about this yesterday. And that is this fibrous crap that's coming out of people's bodies. So I'm not going to give you my opinion on it. I just want you to see this video and y'all can figure out what's causing it, because we all know, right?
Well, tonight we're hearing from the doctor behind a viral medical oddity.
As some reports claim a California patient literally coughed up a lung. But tonight, we're getting a better perspective on what actually happened. Veronica De La Cruz joins us with the photo circling social media tonight. Veronica?
That's right, Liz and Ken. Doctors worldwide tonight are stunned after a patient of UCSF coughed up a blood clot so large it came out in the exact shape of his right lung. Now, the photo tells the story best, but we have to warn you, it is disturbing. Take a look.
Very
this
disturbing.
Is it, and you can see the unusual shape. The patient's doctor tells KPIX5 tonight the man had an extreme bout of coughing when the 6-inch clot came out, and he agrees the case is extremely rare and a little bit bizarre.
How crazy. I just brought that because we were talking about that last show, right? And somebody brought it up in the chat. And so we were like, oh, I have that picture. Yes. People who've had the boo-boo are ending up with this. So, if you haven't seen it, yes, Jesus fucking Christ. I agree, Warren. Oh my God, right? Can you imagine? And he's still alive. Yeah, he coughed that up. A lot, though, aren't still alive. Oh, what the fuck? Yeah, Farron, there is if you go do some research, there's a ton of pictures that are starting to come out from not just this person, from lots of other people. There's morticians that are doing interviews about how when they're trying to put the formaldehyde in a body, they can't get it in because there's these fibrous blockages inside the person's body. And so I just want to remind you guys that this is happening, and just like the myocarditis and people just dying for no reason, they don't know what's causing it, right? Yeah, we know what's causing it. It's called eugenesis. But I just thought I'd bring that because we were talking about it the other day, and I wanted to show you guys how freaking terrible, how terrible.
Well, tonight we're hearing.
Oh, I must not click on play. I have you guys figured. I figured out my slide deck. I'm not having to do the double play anymore, even though I just did. But getting better at it. Thank you guys for joining me today. Today is To Hell and Back Thursdays. If you're just joining us, we are bringing back a flagship show called To Hell and Back that is hosted by myself and Craig Postajardula from the Convo Couch, where we talk about addiction and the road to recovery, and we cover every aspect of it that we possibly can. And so we want to hear your stories. We love hearing your stories. We all have different, experiences, and we want to hear your experiences and how you coped. And if you got something you want to say, please send me. I think we even have a To Hell and Back Gmail, but you can always hit me up on Twitter, DMs, any of that, if you want to come in and talk about your story. We'd love to hear it. And I think next week, No, Pasta's not an addict. Pasta, no. And Pasta's just very compassionate, and he knows how important of a story this is. And Pasta has a lot of loved ones that have dealt with addiction. And he actually went and did interviews with a lot of them. And you hear it from their mouths, what they've been through and the hell that they're going through between drug court and methadone programs and MAT programs, and just a really good deep dive. So I'm hoping we can get back into telling people's stories and what's happening out there with addiction across our country. So Thursdays are going to be to Hell and Back Thursdays. So I am headed into DC for Hands Off Assange on October 8th. I'm sure most of you know about it. If you don't know about it, please be sure to follow and show up in DC if you can. Of course, it's going to be the Women's March at the same goddamn time. So we're going to be out there schooling the shitlibs on who Julian Assange is and why they should be standing up for, the freedom of the press and freedom of speech, and the fact that, he's a publisher. And so there's just so much we need to talk to them about, and we will be. If you want to help, there's a GoFundMe link in the description box below. And thank you everybody who has sent in donations, who's helped. You guys have really helped us. We've got our flights, we've got everything locked down, which traveling, we went to DC 2.5 years ago for an Assange event. And I can't believe how much everything has gone up. Airfare, room, car, all of that. Amber and I are doing a mad dash. We're going to leave at 11 o'clock on Friday night, land at DC first thing in the morning, hit the streets, get to sleep that night, and then turn around and fly back across the country. So we're doing DC and across the country in 3 days. And I can't wait to see some of you, give you hugs, squeeze you. There's so many that I can't wait to see on the ground in DC. So it helps somebody else out too. Comrade Misty Putin, she's actually got the Hands Off Assange links on her Twitter. Please go help Misty. That goes to buying flyers and handout stuff and, pins and whatnot to get the word out there, to get the message out there. And of course, we will be doing ours at the same time that they're going to do a human chain around Parliament in the UK for Julian Assange. And of course, there is going to be events globally all over. If you're in Australia, if you're in the UK, look it up. They're everywhere. So thank you so much for that. And like I said, PayPal is PayPal, right? That is one of our covers. So yeah, please join us next Thursday. Like I said, Pasta probably won't be back till the following week, but I'm going to keep doing these every Thursday because I think it's an important conversation that needs to be had as much as we can have it. And at first I hated doing these type of shows. Like, oh my God, I got to open myself up, become vulnerable, tell people my downfalls and, that I'm not a perfect good person. But now I embrace that because if it saves one person's life or they get one bit of information from me that makes their life better, then it's worth it to be out here. And I'm getting stronger. You guys are making me stronger. I never set out to be on YouTube. I never set out to even work in politics. And this is where the road has led me, where you guys have led me with your support. So I can't thank you guys enough. And my closing song, I would normally close with America Is, but we'll save that one for Thursdays. This is a Theory of a Dead Man. And this song, I played the song last night, I just started bawling. This is a family song for me. Like I said, everybody in my sphere, every single person I know was addicted. And this just relates to it. I think there's so many more people out there that aren't, being vocal about it. And I'm so glad that some are. So let me make one more pass through my chats. Thank you guys so much on the Rokfin for joining us. Dingo, welcome, Dingo. Catalytic Centaur, nice to see you. Glad, go stop. You stop by. Vass Adams. Hey, Vic, what's up? And everybody else that I shouted out. Everett Singleton, welcome. The blood shot clot in the lung. I was able to cough it up. Oh, he's a very lucky person. Yes, very lucky person. So just a story I want you guys to be aware of. So you can catch me. Let's see. What's my next show? Beauty and the Boomer. Saturday night. I don't know if Amber King's doing a Brave New Future tomorrow, but join Oz and I for Beauty and the Boomer on Saturday, and then I'll be back Tuesday morning with Trailer Park Pundit, and then of course Tuesday night we do B&B Shorts. So You can catch us sometime of the week, and we appreciate all your guys' love and support. Get out there and make sure you're watching and following all the independent media, all of our fams out there doing a great job. And I will talk to you later. Thanks for joining me.
Wake up to a cloudy day, dark routine and it starts to rain. Staring out to the gates like walls. Time goes by and the shadows crawl. Crushing kitty, crushing pills. Got no job, mom pays my bills. Next to next is get my fill. Sweating borders, Netflix jails. World's out there singing the blues. 20 more dead on the evening news. Think to myself, but he wants to use. I'm just like you, I was born to lose. Why, oh why can't you just fix me when all the walls of you numb, but the medication's all gone? Why, oh why does God hate me when all the walls get high and forget this so-called lie? I am so freaking bored, nothing to do today. I guess I'll sit around and medicate. I am so freaking bored, nothing to do today. I guess I'll sit around and medicate. Can't wait to feel better than ever with a tag that cheat on Benadryl. She's down with a hopeful smile. Leave myself, I can go for miles. They say family's all you need. Someone too drunk can't help you breathe. Inhale that drug, but you start to choke. The power in the ounce of an inside joke. Why, oh why can't you just fix me when all the walls of you numb, but the medication's all gone? Why, oh why does God hate me? 'Cause I've seen enough of it, heard enough of it, felt enough of it, had enough of it. I am so freaking bored, nothing to do today. I guess I'll sit around and medicate. I am so freaking bored, nothing to do today. I guess I'll sit around and medicate. Medicate, 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 medicate. It's you know, but who's fighting you though? It's for the rest of us who got no fear and stay like us. Stars and Hollywood Hills, Snapchat live with the pop them pills. All those flavors of the rainbow. Too bad that shit don't work though. Your friends are right now, your parents are right now. Lot of chicks are right now, that campus are right now. The president's are right now, your priestess are right now. Everyone's eyes falling now and no one's ever coming down. I am so freaking bored, nothing to do today. I guess I'll sit around and medicate. I am so freaking bored, nothing to do today. I guess I'll sit around and medicate. Medicate, 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 medicate.